Did you know that the census is due this year on April 1st? And guess what? This time we can finally count as Caribbean. This year, all you have to do is 1. Check the race box, and 2. Write in your country of birth or ancestry. You can answer by the paper form, online, or by phone. Everybody counts in Census 2020. So count as Caribbean. Yes, we count.
What's up, Ridealong family? Welcome to the ride. Welcome to Monday on the ride. As you're coming, go ahead and share the thing, and say, I share. It's a beautiful Monday. Yeah, man. Happy Monday. My happiest day of the week. Every day is my happiest day of the week. Monday, I love Monday. If you love Monday, press love. If you love Monday, press love. If you love Mondays, press love. Let me go ahead and share the thing on my end as well. Let me go up and share the thing as well over on my side. Let me press love. Who we have? Hazel Jardine. How you doing, Hazel Jardine? Big up yourself. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for locking it down. Let me start a watch party. Who else we have? Joan. I share. It's a keyword today. I share. I'm making no joke. I don't making no joke. I share. I want to see I share. Just say I share. Put it on the page and say I share. Hey, Samasha Santa Claus, how you doing, my friend? How is it down there? How you guys coping in hot, sunny Grenada? I jealous all your bad. Yeah, jealous all your bad. Trust me. I want to be there too. Lydia James, how you doing? Big up yourself. Big up yourself. Thank you so much. I share. I'm trying to start a watch party over here, but this thing giving me hell. Let me fix it. Fix it. Yeah. What else we have? Hey, Andover, how you doing? Big up yourself, Andover. We appreciate you 100% all the time. Thank you so much, Andover. Hey, Shante, my friend. I know. You don't even have to tell me, girl. I know what you're going through. Big up yourself. We'll get some answers for you. Jillian, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much, Jillian. I share. Big up, Jillian. Who else we have? Joan, Gabrielle, thank you so much, Joan. Thank you. Watch party started. Hey, Selma Henry. Big up yourself. Thank you so much, Selma Henry. We appreciate you as well. Asha Douglas. Everybody share. I want everybody to share, right? But not just share. I want you guys to be a part of this discussion here today. It's very important. For the whole weekend, that's a very topical issue. We all been talking about it. It's a big issue in Grenada right now. And I want to give everyone the facts as we know it right now. And also give you an opportunity to come out and talk about it. So we're going to open up the phone lines a little bit later. Today, we're going to take it from 2 parts, right? Well, many different angles, but 2 main parts. We have 2 professionals on the line with us today. Mr. Ruggles Fergusson, who is like our in-house legal representative. He tells us everything has to do with the law and how it affects you. Give us an educational perspective of the law. And we have Mr. Augustine Panchoo, who is also going to be joining us here as well, right? So it's a very interesting perspective. Now, we've got to be looking at this case, as I said, a very topical issue, the case involving Mr. Evan Smith. If you guys have been paying attention over the weekend, we saw the GBN news that erupted a massive protest on Saturday. We're going to talk about the protest. We're going to talk about the law and everything. All right. So this is going to be an interesting one. So go ahead and share the program. Share it up right now. Hey, how you doing, Rena? Thank you so much, Rena. Rena, I know you didn't win a thing, but hey, your friend Kibby won over the weekend in the bingo, right? So Kibbs, congratulations to you and everybody that won. Also, guys, I got to thank everyone that played bingo with us on Sunday. Big up all yourself. We just want to tell you before we start the program that we have a next round of bingo coming up again, and this one is going to be Anselm Douglas is going to be live, performing live with us, and that's going to be next month. That's the last Saturday in the month, which is on the 25th of July. All right, a lot of nice giveaways. We'll tell you guys about this a little bit later. Tell you guys a little bit about this a little bit later. So let's start today. As I said, we have two professionals on the line with us today. Dr. Augustine Panchoo and, of course, attorney Mr. Ruggles Fergusson. Gentlemen, welcome to Ride Along today. Panchoo, I haven't
seen you. Thank you, Junior. Thank you for having me on the program.
I haven't seen you in a long time, Panchoo, so we're going to start with you. How are you doing, my friend?
I am doing absolutely fine. I'm doing fine. Psychologically, emotionally, I'm doing okay.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about, I mean, I know of your background and you're doing so much in Grenada. Tell us about your position and what very important role you're playing in Grenada right now.
Well, I don't want anyone to mix up my appearance on this program with what I do professionally and for my career.
Right.
Professionally, Junior, I am the consulting clinical psychologist with the Ministry of Social Services. So I work for the government basically. And that's what I do professionally and for my career. So tonight I'm appearing on this program as an independent person outside of my position and job related activities. So this is just Gus that's appearing on this program, passionate about social justice.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And of course, Mr. Ruggles Fergusson, welcome back, Ruggles. I know I feel comfortable when you're on the program because you have so much knowledge, a wealth of knowledge, and we try to get as much information from you whenever we have a time to spend at this hour with you. How are you doing today, sir?
Hi, well, good evening, Junior, and good evening, listeners. Well, fine. As usual, I would try to explain as much as possible, clarify. It's all about public education, and that is important now and all the time, and especially as this issue that's the subject of discussion today. Over the last 72 hours. Just even on that issue, I've received so many different calls from different people in relation to issues arising, legal issues arising out of this matter. So I'm happy to share, whatever knowledge is to be shared and to maybe offer some guidance as far as possible in, treating with the issue.
Okay, absolutely. Guys, so let's start with the issue at hand. I'm going to play back the news clipping, and that complements GBN News on what actually happened. Then we're going to look at it from the legal perspective. Take a look at this story, guys, from complements GBN.
Nicole Smith of Constantine St. George and her husband Evan Smith visited GBN on Friday to tell her story after the husband was beaten by a Caucasian family in Westerhall St. David. The husband, with his lips busted and swollen and his voice barely audible, his body visibly shaking and in tears, attempted to speak.
No.
It was his wife who had to relay the story to GBN.
My husband was on his way to work in Fort Judy, Sunset Drive, and he had some workers about, let's say, 5 men at the back, 2 in front with him. However, when he reached on the site, he was told, one of the guys said, "Boss, you have just smashed a dog." And he was like, "What?" He said, "Yes." Well, none of the guys stopped him, even though they know about that. Approximately about, let's say, 5 minutes after we saw a black van came up. And the person, was a man, and came, a white guy, came and he said, ask who the van belongs to. So my husband said, "I am the driver, it belongs to me." And he said, "Can I have your name and your number, where you live, and don't move because the police is coming?" So I was like, what's the reason for that? He said, well, you have just killed my dog. Then he left and he went to, my husband said he's not going anywhere. And I said, he's not going anywhere either. So he left and he went to carrying one of the workers back to the next site. On his way on the next site, driving, coming out in Sunset Drive, this man appeared in front of my husband's vehicle. He stopped. When he stopped, he pushed his hand into the vehicle because my husband stopped and stopped the vehicle also. Pushed his hand in my husband's vehicle, take out the keys from the car, and then whilst my husband was coming out from the car, his wife take my husband's vehicle, the door, and slam it into his chest. His son and his daughter, along with his wife and the husband, start beating up on my husband. He's taking further action. My husband is a sickly person. They had no right laying their hands. Not 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. That is not acceptable. For me, it is not acceptable, and I'm not leaving it there.
GBN also spoke with one of Smith's workers, Eriko Nicholas, who told GBN what led to this physical altercation.
We was going down to work and we driving now, and a dog just running from the side, running behind the van, like on the side of the van. And same time now, me run under the tire and get rolled over and end up dying. But I was in the road itself, like the main road.
Smith told GBN her husband was ill prior to this incident and was not surprised that he was unable to defend himself. She said she was further shocked when the police informed them that a case against the family will have to be handled privately.
When the police came and take the statement from us, the question was asked to the police, what would we do concerning the physical? The word was from the police is that if we want to press charges against them, we have to take it privately. Isn't this a police matter? Isn't this a police matter because you're investigating already? The doctor examined him where he had pain, well, proven showing right now as the lip is swollen because of the way they hit him, and the impression was he burst it. So it caused it to the swollen, he's been having pain. Right now, my husband hasn't sleep because of what he's troubling with. No one seems to know what is going on with him. He's traumatized, he's crying, he couldn't sleep last night and he's shaking like this. He can't function as work.
Both husband and wife are construction workers. GBN reached out to the Community Relations Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force and specifically to the head of the Community Relations Department, Superintendent of Police Vanny Cohen. However, a response was not forthcoming. Cherry and Blackman Stephen, GBN News.
All right. So there we go. The full story complements GBN News. Now let's look at the obvious, Ruggles. The obvious is an obvious altercation occurred, right? Mm-hmm. He is physically injured. Why didn't the police make an arrest in this case at the site?
Okay, well, first of all, Junior, as I always say, you have the version of the and I'm going to take it as the version of the Smiths, the victims here. That's the version. So let's just go on the basis of the version. What I'm not clear on from the video is at what point they were speaking with the police. There was one incident, one involving the dog, and there was a second incident based on what is being related. There was a second incident involving the altercation or the physical altercation. And at what point did the police question them, whether it was on the scene or whether they would have gone to their house or so? I'm not clear from the video. I mean, I've heard various versions, by the way, but I'm dealing strictly with what appears on the video. Clearly, let me just make the point that, of course, this is a wife admirably coming to the defense of her husband. It's a video that would evoke lots of emotions based on the story told. You ask why no arrest? Well, I haven't heard a version from the police, but there are two issues that I just want to comment on in terms of procedure, right? Procedure. In an incident where there's an incident, then and the police come on the scene after. Of course, the police would want to conduct an investigation, speak to both parties, and then make a determination as to what has happened. She has indicated that the police said that that is a matter to be handled privately. Well, of course, it's not a matter to be handled privately. It is a police matter. Once there is harm, there's altercation, and somebody makes a report about it. I've heard other versions as to whether or not she understood what the police said at the time in relation to handle privately. But what I can say, based on her version, then it's an incident, it's an altercation. It will be, and based on the version is that somebody beat up, the other folks beat up her husband.
Right.
In the manner in which she described, then based on that, there can be action by the police. There could be a private matter, but as I always separate, there is what you call broadly the criminal law and the civil law.
Right.
With the criminal law, the police are concerned with the offense. And with a criminal offense, the parties, the complainant is merely a witness for the prosecution. However, in all these incidents, there can also be, at the choice of the individual, a private civil matter. The aim of the criminal matter would be punishment. That's the matter brought by the police. And that's why when there are charges, you will see not the individual's name versus the accused. You will see commissioner of police versus the accused, because it's a police case.
Right.
You can pursue a civil matter. It's your choice for compensation.
Right.
So, for example, in every incident or most incidents of a criminal nature, there is the criminal aspect of it, and there is the civil aspect of it.
Right.
The police pursues the criminal aspect. The individual pursues the private civil aspect.
I understand that, but in a case where you have a brawl and police come on the scene and there's an obvious brawl, somebody is living in handcuff. I've seen it. I've seen it many times. Fighting in a park or fight wherever, a fight broke out, an incident happened. It's very obvious somebody's living in handcuff. The fact remains that this particular individual did not live in handcuff. The police did not expedite the arrest of these individuals up until the charges was filed later. I'll come back to that. I want to get Panchoo take on the incident. Panchoo, what's your overall view on this entire incident? What happened? What transpired right after?
Well, very similar to the clip GBN showed. It is my understanding that the driver of the truck, Mr. Evan Smith, he ran over a dog, and he was dropping off his workers at different sites, and on his way back he was confronted by the perpetrators of the violence against him, and they proceeded to remove his keys, and of course physically assaulted him, resulting in injury, all of the injuries that he sustained. But what is instructive also, Junior, to know that the perpetrators of the crime, they had already called the police,
Mhm.
and the police responded. I know you just wanted the gist of the story because I have a lot to talk
No,
about.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Um, or you want me to? Because what is instructive, one of the questions I read that's lingering in my mind, Junior, is given the fact that the perpetrators called the police,
Mhm.
I would like a transcript of that call. I would like to know what was the basis for that call, because you have to understand also that the police responded forthwith. Okay, remember the initial concern is not an offense. It's the initial concern was the running over the dog in the road. That's not an offense.
Right.
Okay, that's an accident. Okay, so if the perpetrators of the violence called to report that somebody rolled over the dog, I don't know what they said, and it doesn't matter what they said unless I get the transcript. So my question is, I'd love to see the transcript. What is the reason and the basis for the call? But given the fact that the police assured them that they were on the way, because the male, the father of the of in the gang that perpetrated the crime, um, indicated to Mr. Smith that you have to wait here. The police are on the way. So he was assured that they were coming.
Right.
Very, very interesting piece. You understand?
Mhm.
And Junior, what also is that you are right when you alluded to when there is a brawl and there is blood. Junior, there is blood because the Mr. Smith received a wound
Yes.
on his upper lip. Up until Friday, you saw how swollen it was. There is a large laceration inside of his upper lip caused by his lip coming in contact with his teeth. So there is a laceration there. So it means that this man was bleeding.
Yes.
So the police comes and this man is bleeding. And of course, the family is there, but nobody lives in handcuffs. Nobody is taken.
Yeah. Yeah.
Junior,
I,
this
it's
man
puzzling to me to understand.
defended himself by putting his hands up. And
Mhm.
I cannot, it's not in me to say why, but his wife alluded to already said to us, shared with us, that he does have a physical limitation.
Right.
That physical limitation, Junior, does not even allow the Mr. Smith to throw punches.
Right.
He physically can't. So he is protecting himself. So the police comes and they see blood and they gave a form. Let me say this here quickly, Junior.
Mhm.
The gist, and I think you probably want to ask me, but I let me preclude and preempt the question. What was the basis for the protest? Junior, the police came and gave this bleeding gentleman with limited capacity a form to go to the doctor
Mhm.
and to bring back the form so that they could make an arrest. Junior, Mr. Fergusson will tell you this. The police does not need a medical form to
To
make
arrest.
an arrest.
True.
The
True.
medical form guides it guides the charge, and you have 48 hours in which to produce the medical form. So the
Right.
medical form is separate to the arrest. And
Yes.
this is what outraged me, that I had to get involved at this level, because you do not need a medical form to make an arrest. You have 48 hours in which to charge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ruggles, we'll come back to you because I want to talk about the motive and the ideas behind the protest. But Ruggles, this is what's frustrating me, right? Uh, a lot of people are saying that it seems like there's two type of justice that reigns. There are a justice system for the poor or the not so powerful, and then there is another justice system for the powerful, right? Because I've seen situations where I've been in park where there, whether it's intercourse sport or whatever it is, and a little brawl started, a little fight broke out or whatever the case is, and the police would come there and put these people in handcuff because it's evident. It is fact. You could see that something occurred. The question that is bothering everybody is why didn't the police made an immediate arrest? Is it because of privilege? Could it be?
Right. Well, let me say again, Junior, I can't speak either for the police or for any side. What I would want to highlight is what the regular procedures are in circumstances like this. So there could have been options, and depending on the scenario, the actual situation met. When an arrest is usually executed, when there is an actual scenario playing out. In fact, you gave the exact example of people fighting in intercol or sports, and people fighting, and in the face of the police, they can execute an arrest. Now, what would be the correct word in those circumstances? There is a distinction between a detention per se and arrest.
Right.
So there could have been a situation, because an arrest is usually there's an arrest and charge. Once there is sufficient evidence to arrest you, once there is sufficient evidence to charge you, then you are formally arrested and charged. The arrest is a formal process. So in those circumstances, let us say that the police arrived on the scene and the brawl or altercation was taking place. Then in those circumstances, they may have arrested because they felt that there would be sufficient evidence at that point in time to execute an arrest based on what the police is seen. They are seen playing out before their very eyes. If they arrive on the scene after, then there's an option, for example, to detain and say, well, listen, come back to the station. Let me take a formal report, or let me take a formal report from you now. And based on what is said by both sides, and I have no idea what was told to the police or what the police said to them, except, of course, what Mrs. Smith has indicated. But as part of the investigation, one of the important steps to an investigation or laying of a charge is the medical form. So what happens in cases where there is an obvious injury, as Dr. Panchoo indicated here, there was a bursted lip, what appeared to be a laceration and so. What the police would do is to give you the form. You attend a medical practitioner, and you can bring back the form at any time. It doesn't have to be 48 hours. You can bring back the form. In fact, some people never bring back the form at all. And what the form does, it was flashing across the screen fairly quickly, so people may not have picked it up. But what the form does, you go to a doctor, you indicate what happened. So you might go to the doctor and say, man punched me in my face and bursted my lip. the doctor would do an examination, and the doctor would, on the form, tick off what is either might be harm, cause harm, or a maim, or grievous harm. That's on the form, and that would guide the police as to the nature of the charge to lay.
Yeah,
because
but
there are
the
different
police do not
degrees
need that. The
of
police
harm.
do not need the form to make an arrest. Don't tell
Sorry?
me that the police need. Do the police need the form to make an arrest? No, they don't.
To lay a charge.
To lay a
They
charge.
will, right, to lay a charge. But what I'm saying, you see, people use the word arrest very loosely.
Right.
An arrest usually takes place in the heat of the action. Arrest taken, something is done in the eyes of the officer, they can arrest. And that's why subsequently they might issue a warrant if it's something that takes place a while after. So what precedes an arrest is an investigation. That precedes an arrest. You may detain somebody as part of an investigation. So, for example, what could have taken place is not an arrest. It's not necessarily an arrest. It's a detention as part of your investigation.
But that didn't happen. That detention didn't happen either.
No, but it's not one that may inevitably happen. And what I want to make a separation, I think we need to counsel caution here, Junior. What we have to make a distinction in terms of the outrage, in the perception that, listen, some white folks bestowed folks on blows on some black folks, and the outrage that accompanies that. Whatever the nature of the matter, even though it was a simple assault,
right,
where there was no injury, that would attract outrage, right? On the one hand, we have to separate that from the legal charge.
Yes.
The legal charge that could be laid by the police.
Right.
Now, note, well, of course, it didn't come over the tape, but what I understand, that there were charges of causing harm laid, right? So charges of causing harm laid, that's a summary charge. You have two kinds of offenses in criminal law. You have summary offenses and you have indictable offenses. Assault, harm, wounding, those fall as summary offenses. And when we say summary offenses, they are heard and determined in the magistrate's court. Causing harm, maiming, like you lose a limb, dangerous harm, attempted murder, those are indictable. And it's tried before judge and jury.
Right.
So what I'm saying is that one has to make a distinction. Now, for summary matters, you may be arrested and charged. People are brought to court two ways. You can arrest and charge, and after arrest and charge, then the issue would be whether or not bail would be granted. If the police don't object to bail, then bail is set in the station itself. If they object to bail, you go before the magistrate or the court, depending on the nature of the charge, and the magistrate sets bail. For summary charges, you may be brought to court by summons. It depends on the nature of the charge. When no arrest may be involved at all. For every offense, someone is arrested, especially for most indictable offenses, yes. Okay. But for summary charges, you may be summoned, brought to court by a summons. So there's a complaint, the magistrate signs the summons, and you are brought to court. So an arrest in circumstances like that, unless, for example, the police may have gone there and in the heat of the action, then something has taken place and they may conduct an arrest there. Right. But it would not be wrong, and I'm saying that from a legal technical standpoint. Right. So you must conduct an investigation, and you know, one of the things I think where the outrage, and Dr. Panchoo might be in a better position to say than me, because he's more intimate with the facts. But they when they came on the scene, as he said, the police were the police there with both sides, or the police spoke to both sides separately?
Right.
Um,
Pancho,
uh-huh.
Pancho, I believe, Pancho, if you want to speak on that, if you have the facts on that.
Sure. No, well, the point is they were both there, right on the scene. The gentleman, Mr. Evan Smith, was there with one worker. In fact, after they blocked Mr. Smith, the family blocked his car. He stopped. The father reached inside of the man's vehicle and removed the keys.
They said the mother did it. Was it the father that did it, or was it the mother?
The father. The father, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And the father instructed the worker sitting on the passenger side of the vehicle to stay in the vehicle. There were only two of them, the one worker and Mrs. Smith.
Right.
Plus the family. But they were also very close to a construction site of the perpetrators. So looking on were some workers working on the construction site of the perpetrators.
Right. Now, the first thing that I had to, when I saw this story, I'm like, okay, all right, listen, guys. So then we have a family, and I want to take race out of it, right? Because I think when we talk race, people get more passionate about it, and we don't want to talk about race issue. But you have the worker that's on the back of the car, right? And he's on the car, and he's seeing someone beating up someone that cannot even defend himself. Did he jump in? Did anybody else jump in to defend this man? Or they just let it play out? No one defended him.
They just let it play out, Junior. Junior, let me share something philosophical for our audience. Grenada depends on tourism.
Right.
There is no question about that. That's our bread and butter. When you look at have been socialized to respect tourism, there is a certain kind of respect and awe that we have for persons that are not necessarily black. And I know you said that you want to take out race, and I don't think necessarily that we can, because I'm going somewhere with this. Mm-hmm. So when the perpetrators, who are Caucasians, say to the worker, stay inside the van, you get already the intimidating and tourism and love for and respect for. So when you ask, did anybody join or came to the defense of Evan? No, nobody came to the defense. The worker that was sitting on with Mr. Evans just stayed there and let it play out.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't see tourism having anything to do with that. Even with somebody, I mean, somebody beating them defenselessly, I would jump in. I don't care who it is, personally. And I you know what I mean? And people are looking on to that. I mean, no matter who that person is, they should jump in.
Yeah.
But again, I don't want to make it a racial issue. I don't want to make it a racial issue, right? But do you think that would prejudice the case, Ruggles? Because here we have a couple of things, as Panchoo mentioned, he blocked him, so that's unlawful imprisonment. That's a multitude of charges right there. But being a Caucasian person in Grenada, do you think that he could get a fair trial, if that is even something that it might come to?
Well,
Would
I
it be
suppose,
in this case?
right, and that's why one has to counsel caution in relation to it, because you say, let's take out race, right? Let's take out race, and but there are two issues I think that sparked the outrage. There are two issues that sparked the outrage. The first one is what was said about the police saying is a private matter,
Right.
right? That part of it, and secondly, the perception that it is an incident that was race driven, right? I believe those are the two issues that sparked the outrage. So, for example, this might have been an issue that is one of the regular issues that occur every day. For example, had the police indicated or not indicated, or as I've heard another version, and that's the thing, you have heard so many different versions to the story, that what was indicated by the police is not what was understood, because Mrs. Smith, the spokesperson, apparently, because you can correct me on this too, I heard a version that she may not have been present on the scene with the second altercation. But whatever was, whether it was communicated or the message that was received, possibly based on the manner in which it was dealt with, was that this is a private action, and what a private action means is that you have to fend on your own.
Right.
And of course, that would be objectionable. That would be objectionable because, and it would immediately feed into the second aspect of it that causes outrage, and especially will cause outrage in a situation like this, which is that at a time when that race issue and people are so conscious about it, it will spark double outrage based on what has gone on in the United States and the protest that follows. This is the kind of timing. If something like this happens, the immediate perception will be, no matter how you want to take race out of it, that would be the perception. Whether or not is the actual reality,
Right.
that would be the perception. So I think it was sparked because this lady feels a sense of injustice because she is there, well, her husband is beaten up, and then somebody tells her, well, listen, you have to go and fend on your own because that is a private matter. So it cannot be a private matter. Whether that was told to her or whether that's the way she received whatever was told to her, the bottom line is that it cannot be a private matter.
Right. Right. Let me just give a programming note right now, guys. You're watching Ridealong Live. We're talking about this incident that occurred in Grenada over the weekend, where a Grenadian man has pre-existing condition was beaten by a family of four, Caucasian family of four. The event sparked widespread outrage to Grenadians all over, and it sparked a protest that was held on Sunday Mr. Panchoo is here. He was one of the organizers of the protest. So we wanted to get a legal perspective, understanding from Ruggles Fergusson. Now, Panchoo, you kind of alluded to this earlier as it relates to why you decided to do the protest. What was the message behind organizing the protest?
Junior, one, that an arrest was not immediately effected. I was not tuned into my Facebook and WhatsApp on Thursday, and Friday was the same thing. It was until Saturday morning when I got up and turned on my social media that I recognized what was going on. Watch this, Junior, Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately I decided, no, that does not sound right. So I made a couple calls and I got to speak with the wife and other people. And I realized, no, that this is an injustice. Because here are a couple things, Junior. One, the arrest was not made. The police was called. The commissioner said today, watch this, you're going to like this. The commissioner said that the call was made for a hit and run of an animal.
Right.
He said that. So the police was responding for a hit and run. And when they got there, Evan Smith was a bloody mess with the family standing right there because that's around their construction site. Okay? So they gave him a form. They measured and looked at where the dog was hit and all of that. And they gave him a form and said to him, return it. Now, I want you to think. There are no excuses for Mr. Evan not returning the form at a certain time. Because as Mr. Fergusson rightly said, that form does not have to go in within 24 hours. No, that form does not have to go in at all within 24 hours for an arrest to be made or even for a charge to be filed. In fact, there was enough physical evidence on site for a charge of harm to be made. Here is the interesting thing, Junior, and I want my listeners to pay attention to this closely. And Mr. Fergusson, who is there, can talk to this. Junior, when the police makes an arrest, if the police proceeds with a charge, let's say in the case they went with bodily harm, but later on the medical evidence show grievous harm, then the DPP gets the opportunity to increase or decrease the charge. But we do not need a medical form. Nowhere in law do we need a medical form to arrest and to lay a charge. So when my client, when Mr. Evan, Mr. Fergusson, I'm not an attorney, but when Lord. But when Mr. Smith got, watch this, when he got the paper, he was not of the opinion that he needed to return that form so that an arrest and or charge could be made. Notice that he had that form. Watch it, Junior. He had that form with him on Friday. He didn't turn it in because that was not his understanding. He didn't turn it in. So he was looking for justice. He's saying, I am hurt. People beat me up. The doctors say I have a laceration and all of these stuff, pain in my chest, dizziness, I can't sleep. He is saying that, and he has this proof that this happened, but no arrest has been made. So when I called and they said, yes, all of these things happened, I said, no. There has to be a protest, and within 3 hours, the protest was organized. That's the point. The beauty of what happened on Saturday. What happened on Saturday didn't take more than 3 hours to organize. Social media, people were ready because they saw the injustice of what happened, and that was. You ask me what spurred on, what is the catalyst for the protest march? One, the immediate arrest. I felt that something needed to be done and a charge needed to be made. And thirdly, Junior, nowhere in Grenada, not because of only this, but anywhere else in the future, we as a population, regardless of who we are, we cannot go into our own hands and seek street justice. It is illegal to do so.
Yeah. Yeah, guys, we can open up the phone line right now if you want to call in. The number 718-701-5720. That's the number you could call in right now. 718-701-5720. We're going to take some calls on this topic here. Ruggles, do you think that we need to reimagine or kind of refocus or change certain things about policing? Because they are called, we've seen that all over the world. In the United States, they're talking about defund the police, because the police is in a lot of cases, we see this here. That's why it bothers me, because this is what I see here in the US, right? You see a disparity in justice. I was on the receiving end of that. The white police that pulled me over and I had to go to court, I didn't feel like I was treated fairly, because I think that I was on the lower end. I was on the minority end of justice, right? So do you think that we need to reimagine policing in the Caribbean? Because we've seen this happening widespread all over the world. Is that something that might need to be looked into?
Yes. Well, Junior, first of all, the issue
Ruggles,
is
Ruggles, not to cut you, Ruggles. Sorry, I don't want to cut you. But we just got a call that just came in. Then you're going to answer the question.
Sure.
Caller, you live. Where are you calling us from?
I'm calling from New Jersey.
Go ahead, New Jersey. Are you guys hearing the caller?
Yes, I'm hearing. I'm hearing.
Ruggles, are you hearing the call?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, caller. Go right ahead.
Yes, good evening. Jerry, George, I've been looking at the situation on Facebook, and it's very disturbing. First, even though the dog has got his death underneath a vehicle, that does not give anyone any reason to put their hand on anyone. We have police in Grenada. The police, you tell the person to hold on, and the same, you report the matters to the police, and the police come, and especially what happened to this gentleman, the police should make an arrest right away.
Okay.
Secondly, I don't think anybody in the right mind can think that they have the right to abuse someone, especially coming in the person's own country. I've been living in Fort Julie, and I know what goes on in Fort Julie. Down there has so many dogs. The dogs and them live in the street. No vehicle cannot pass. They run you down. Even you as human, the dogs would try to cover you. I know what goes on down there.
Right.
And you're going to tell me that a dog gets his death in the street? Well, the dog is everybody's dog. It's not a owner dog.
Yeah. Okay, let me just say, right? I don't want to diminish a dog, right? I hear a lot of people talking about it, but I don't want to diminish a dog, because I have a dog, right? I have a puppy, right? And I know how close my puppy is like a family member, and that's just me, right? So I understand to have your puppy killed. Like, I would feel like it's my son or my daughter. That's how close my puppy is to me. So we don't want to diminish someone's bonding or someone's closeness with their pet, because it's just a dog, it's not like that in everybody's household. So let's not diminish.
Junior, without cutting you, I has a dog and I has a cat, and these are my babies. These are everything that I love. What I would say to you, if my dog or my cat happen to go in the street and it gets its death in the street, I cannot go and smack at somebody and say, you kill my dog.
Right, exactly. No one has the right. No one has the right to do that. I'm not saying that he has the right to do that.
Not in my house.
Right. He doesn't have the right to do that, and I agree. We're not saying that he should take justice in his own hand. He absolutely shouldn't. But thank you, caller. We get your point. Thank you so much for participating in our conversation here today. All right.
Have a pleasant evening.
All right. Thank you, Ruggles. So let me put you back in that spot again. Policing. Do you see that this is a time that we need to start possibly reimagine policing?
Well, what I would say, as I've said in dealing with a different issue on another program, what you really need, Junior, is really ongoing training for police officers. And what is very important too, as part of that training, is to understand certain sensitivities. I want to make the point about the dog itself. And some people hold the view, of course, that you do. People are close to their pets. The incident with the dog, unless there is some evidence that the driver deliberately bunged down the dog or was on a mission to kill the dog, in other words, cruelty to animals.
Right.
It is an accident. You see, that would be more in the nature of a civil matter.
Okay.
There's no charge that would necessarily flow from it unless the lady who called earlier made a point about animals and dogs, and I want to really emphasize this point about dogs in particular. There's a Dog Control Act in Grenada that is more recognized in the breach than in observance of that bit of legislation, the Dog Control Act. And basically, dogs are supposed to be controlled. All dogs in Grenada are supposed to be registered, and all dogs are supposed to be controlled within the household and away from the public. So you have instances where people walk around with pit bulls. Those are supposed to be muzzled in public places. You have dogs roaming the streets. And even that is an offense under the Dog Control Act, to have just dogs roaming. So that is likely. There is unlikely to be a criminal charge emerging against the driver for bouncing down the dog. Had it been a pedestrian or another vehicle involved in the accident, then that would be another story. You always have animals running about the road. So there'll be hardly any criminal liability flowing from that. What may flow from that is civil liability.
Right.
The lady is also absolutely right in terms of, if your dog might be bunged down, you might be vexed that your dog has been bunged down, killed in this case, but that doesn't give you the right
to take matters in your
anybody hand, or to take action in your own hand.
No,
and that's why, Junior, I separate, because there are two different kinds of stories. With, and I repeat, with or without the bus slip, with or without the bus slip, with or without harm, if the issue was racially motivated, then there'll be it may have been just words.
Right.
There have been just words, and that's an issue to deal with. But however, from a strictly legal standpoint, the charge itself, that is something separate and apart. And remember, when you go to court,
yes,
you know, people can be saying all kinds of things outside of the courtroom, but what a courtroom has to deal with is evidence.
Evidence,
and
yes.
It's the duty of the police to present the evidence. Now, I want to make this point also. People use the word arrest. There's a distinction between detaining somebody. The police might detain somebody for questioning in relation to something and release that person.
Right.
Once you arrest somebody, though, there is a charge that triggers that arrest, and the issue of bail then arises. So it's something totally different. So maybe in terms of how this matter may have gone no way,
Right.
and again, I'm saying that because I want to be fair to everyone, including the police, that because of probably the way it was handled on the spot, whatever said that might have given this lady the impression that this is a private matter, and
Yes.
of course, it's a white person, it's for Judy, and it's a black person involved.
Right.
That would trigger. So one has to understand these kinds of sensitivities.
Right.
And you know, the lady, whatever is the situation, she came out in defense of her husband. She was angry, and so it would naturally trigger emotions.
Emotion.
And
Yeah.
the
We see it.
police themselves have to take that into account, into consideration, when not abiding by the law, but the way issues are handled.
Yes.
So, for example, you might have a big brawl in the middle of town, and instead of cooling down the brawl, what is done or what is said may contribute to a bigger brawl, and that is
Right.
where training and so come in.
Comes in.
Right?
Let me just say really quickly, we have 2 calls on the line, but let me just say really quickly that the family, the entire family, Miss Smith, Mr. Smith, and the attorney will be on Ridealong on Wednesday. So I want you guys to tune in to get the direct information, the full information from their perspective, from their point of view. I want you guys to tune in on Wednesday for that exclusive interview right here on Ridealong Live. We got a call coming in. Let's take that call right now. Caller, go right ahead. Hold on, caller. Caller, go right ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go right ahead.
So I'm calling from London. I'm a really close friend, and my family and the Smiths are very close. My mom worked with him before. I've worked along with him before, and I can tell in terms of his character and the person that I know him as. Yeah, maliciousness in terms of like to harm the dog, I don't see it. I don't know it whatsoever.
Right.
One question to Mr. Fergusson is, what are the laws in terms of a person on how they control their pet out on a public road? Yeah, right. Here in the UK, when you go out to the park, your pet needs to be on a leash. If the pet take a dump, they need to pick it up. In Grenada, what are the laws for that? Because what if someone was walking and the dog attacked the person now?
Right.
You understand? The dog is in the main road, got run over, an accident, you call the police, and for something like that to happen, to be honest, it's burning me because I know him personally. So what's the laws on that?
Okay, let's pose the question. Thank you for calling. Caller, go ahead.
Yes, an important question. I dealt with it a bit earlier, but let me repeat, because we really need a lot of public education on this. There is a Dog Registration and Control Act in Grenada. It simply means all dogs should be registered and all dogs should be also controlled within the confines of your property. And you have, of course, you have bad dogs, you have pet dogs, but dogs generally are supposed to be controlled within the confines of your property, and there are heavy fines. In fact, serious punishment for persons who have their dogs running loose. And it is one of the issues with that act is that it is hardly enforced. There are not many, that act was passed several years ago, and not many people have been charged under that act. In fact, I think I can count the number of persons on my fingers. And I have been involved from both sides in matters representing dog owners and dog victims. But what you have really, because of the seriousness of the fines and so under the act, if people are conscious of that act, you will never find dogs, and particularly dangerous dogs too, just running about on the beach, unmuzzled. When you have your dog in public, like the caller said, that dog ought to be, muzzled. That dog ought to be controlled. That dog ought to be on a leash.
Yes.
So I'm saying so, and from all indications, I cannot pronounce on it, but it seems to have been a genuine accident. And from what even the gentleman was saying, nobody seems to have drawn the attention of the driver to the fact that the dog was bonked. So, because the gentleman came on and said, well, the dog ran out, but it's a little dog, and the driver may genuinely not have realized that he bunks the dog. So there is no justification, and I say so again, not knowing all sides of the story.
Right.
But if that is the basis for acting the way that the folks played out, then obviously that is totally improper and unlawful in those kinds of circumstances.
Right.
But what I'm saying again is that what my feel based on what I have read and from statements people have made is the outrage seems to be, listen, the police told these people that they should handle this matter privately. Whether the police told them, I have not heard the police side of the story. But if that is so, then it ought not to be so, because any offense, whether committed inside a house, in a private place, in the public road, it's an offense. A criminal offense is a criminal offense wherever it is committed.
Yeah.
So, barring what the police have to say on that, it is obvious that that is the message she received, and it caused her serious hurt and anger to the extent that she reacted the way she did. So, for example, if this matter was handled probably a different way, nobody would know about it. It would be one of the matters just taking place every day. Incidents, confrontations, conflicts between individuals, those take place every day. Whether it's between white and black and black, as the case may be, it's an everyday happening. There might be nothing unusual, save and except. In this case, what would be unusual is if the police really told her that it's a private matter, one, and two, if it really was in the circumstances motivated by race. And that is why race cannot be taken out if that indeed, in the absence of other information, and that is what would have gotten people angry in those circumstances.
All right, let's take another caller, and then Panchoo, I know you're itching to say something on the topic. Let's take this one caller. Caller, where are you calling us from?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, caller. Where are you calling us from?
I am calling from Brooklyn, the United States.
Go ahead, Brooklyn.
Mr. Fergusson, some time ago, I'm sure you're familiar with the case with Steve Fossey. You remember him?
With who? Sorry?
Steve Fossey.
Oh, Fossey. Okay, yes.
You remember him?
Yes, I remember him. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the merits of the case? You remember he was unceremoniously deported from Grenada?
Yes.
Before due process, and the judge in that matter asked that he be brought back to him because of the way the government deported him. He didn't assault anyone. He didn't beat anyone. I think all he did was exercise a constitutional right and made certain statements relating to what's going on in the country. Mm-hmm. Now, what are the laws in deporting foreigners after they have served their time and found guilty, after they have found guilty and served time?
Yes, well, for certain offenses.
And I have a follow-up. Right? Go ahead.
Yes. For certain offenses, and in particular drug offenses under the Drugs Act, or certain immigration offenses, there are provisions there for well, not necessarily a deportation order, but it's an ejectment order. The court can order the person out of the country. Deportation order, on the other hand, is an executive act. And so persons can be deported for example, national security reasons. It might be commission of serious offenses there. So most times when there is a deportation, you have some national security reason. And part of that problem, in fact, I have 2 or 3 matters in court challenging deportation orders now. Part of it is that you never get the details. What is said is that is national security.
So the Indian man who had slaughtered that Grenadian girl mercifully, her hands, chop off her hands, feet, and all of that, after he would have served his time, would that qualify him for deportation?
Well, he could be deported. Now, the question is whether or not he is a citizen. Someone is a citizen, or someone is just a visitor. So, for example, if there, as you correctly used the term earlier, due process, if it's a citizen, then that person would be, if there is to be revocation of citizenship, then there would need to be due process. Right. If a person is not a citizen, then there can be deportation, which is by the state.
I want to ask you the final question.
Okay, your colleague, got to hurry up because we have a list of calls.
You file a substantive submission to the Judicial and Legal Services Commission where you complain you made certain allegations about a sitting magistrate. The Judicial and Legal Services Commission heard your matter. They came down to investigate, and the magistrate resigned abruptly. Does that resolve him from the substantive submission that you have made, outlining in details crimes that, in your legal opinion, you believe he may have committed on the bench? Is that the end?
But Wakola, does that have anything directly to do with the topic at hand? I think we're kind of straying away and putting Mr. Ruggles Fergusson on the bench here. I think if we could
quickly, and I agree.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. Well, just briefly, in relation to that, and again, one can illustrate is a due process point. So, as he correctly said, there was a complaint. An investigation followed the complaint, and as the investigation was about to begin, the magistrate chose to resign. So the investigation was not pursued, and actions which were taken against that particular individual are still live. In fact, there are some live actions pending in relation to that individual. But what I want to take out of what another caller pointed out, and despite the fact that how emotionally charged people may be, then there's an entitlement to due process in the circumstances. At the end of the day, what the system is set up, that the law must take its course. And as you said earlier, Junior, in relation to it, you cannot have a trial in the media, at least on the legal issues.
Right.
In the media, because then issues would arise as to whether or not persons can get a free trial, a fair trial
Fair
in the
trial.
circumstances
Right.
there. So you know, one has to be careful about not shooting one's self in the foot.
Okay. Let's
And
just
that's why I say separate both issues, separate the legal issues
right from the
from the broader issues.
right.
You know.
Okay, let's just take this other call real quick, and that's the last call before we have a comment coming from Mr. Panchoo. Caller, go right ahead. Load on your background audio, caller.
Okay, sorry for that.
Go ahead.
Now, you hear me better now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Now, my question is nothing to do with race. I don't care about the race. But in this instance, you cannot take out race. You cannot take out. There's no way you can take out race. Because I have been in a similar situation where there are certain, not all, remember I said certain white people who think that because they have about $2 and they come into your country, that they could do certain things to you. You know? Now the thing about it is, the gentleman went to the man first and said, "Here, you bumps my dog, XYZ will happen, you need to wait for the police," whatever. Right?
Right.
He left and went down the road and waited for the man. That is premeditation. And then blocked the man. That is illegal imprisonment.
Yes.
And then assaulted the man.
Right.
You understand? So you have a whole heap of charges that should be laid right there. You understand? This is not something that is a sporadic moment. Oh, I see a bounce me dog and we fight. No, that's not what happened. He went and he spoke to the man. Then he went down the road and gained his family and he blocked the gentleman. He knew what he was doing because he went into the gentleman's vehicle, took out the key. So that means you cannot move. I block you.
Right.
And then he and his family started to assault the man. Now, what if the guy in the vehicle did not take his instruction and stay in the vehicle, and then he started to fight with him, and he ended up in the other? What would have happened? You understand? I am sure, I could bet my money on that they would have been arrested on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, in Grenada here, and I say this with no apology, in Grenada here, there are people who have priorities based on skin color, based on who you know, based on your family, based on the depth of your pockets. And I mean, I have been, listen to me, a few weeks ago, I am a security guard. I work at a boatyard. A gentleman came to visit owner of the boat. I said, "Boss, you need to have a pass to come inside." He called the owner of the boat came, and he said, "Oh, he coming to me. Let him come inside." I said, "No, sir, he cannot come inside like that. You need to have a pass." The gentleman the owner of the boat went forward and started joking me on my chest. "Oh, I pay you. It's my money, I'm paying you." And he coming to me, and you have to let him come inside. Now, if I was kind of ignorant and I didn't have respect for the elderly, I could have cuffed him down and something could happen. The laws said the gentleman had to have a pass to come in. He didn't have a pass, but because he felt that he had a boat and Mr. Stans, what happened? You have to do what I say.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Right.
And this is what happens in Grenada.
Right.
Certain people with different skin color feel they can just do what they want and get everything in Grenada, and it's sad, but it's true.
Okay. All right. Thank you, caller. We appreciate your input. Panchoo, bring us into perspective. Is this a privilege? Is this what's happening right now? You're in Grenada. You on the ground. Is this what's happening now?
Junior, let me address one thing, and I'm coming to that question. Just for information, because there are over 500 persons on the live right now, and I saw many persons asking this question. Was the wife there? No. The wife's name is Nicole, and she was not present. However, in giving the report to GBN, it is instructive to note that she uses two tenses. She uses the the reported tense. So sometimes you hear say her husband says, her husband said, her husband said, and then there are a couple occasions when she uses the first person, we or I, which gives the idea that she was there also. But what she is doing, and I could tell you this, she's not hiding, she's not lying. She is reporting it as though the husband is reporting it. So she's reporting it on behalf of the husband. But very often in her conversation, you would hear her say, my husband says, my husband says, my husband says. So please, listeners, do not get confused. Nicole was not present. She was dropped off at a different facility, and the husband was just in the company of one worker who was the eyewitness. So Nicole is reporting reported speech and information. Junior, watch this. Thursday, no action relative to the perpetrators. All of Friday, and on Friday, my Mr. Smith had in his possession his medical form. He did not think that he needed to bring that form in. Saturday, which is like 48 hours after, well, close to, not, yeah, when a group of us, learned of what was happening and decided to mobilize using social media, when the thing started to pick up steam, Junior, watch this, and listeners, watch this. Calls started to come and people started to get concerned. Do you know that it was at that time the medical form was still in the possession of Nicole? Still in the possession. At Saturday midday, that form was still in her possession. It was just thereafter, after midday, that the police drove to her house to get that form because they saw that the protest was imminent and they were trying to do something, corrective action, so that they are hoping that we are going to call off the protest. So they quickly got the form, and that's when the husband and the wife drove to the police station, not arrested, but drove to the police station with their lawyer, and they stayed there. So while the protest was going on, Junior, they were in the police station organizing for bail. So throughout the evening, they were at the police station. So I tell you, the catalyst, the momentum that the protest gained felt awesome, so that the police was spurred. And I know so, Junior, I know this is not guess, assumption, innuendo, and or speculation. It was the protest that spurred the police, or else even today, Monday, they would have still be saying, we are waiting for the medical form.
Wow. And what about
me? And you see, you talk about a race. So and privilege, Junior. This is what I want to stress tonight. Privilege. Some people have more privilege than other people, even in this little island of Grenada. And listen, that is why the police was so hurried to get to Fort Judy, because someone called to say there is a hit and run on a dog. Now, I'm not downplaying the dog, Junior. I have my little poodle that I love dearly. I know you do too. But the police to respond to a hit and run on a dog in the public road tells me that they are responding to something much more than a dead or injured dog.
Wow. That is a point there. Ruggles, we saw from the police briefing today that was held at 4 p.m. that they outlined a charge. I think a charge of what was the charge, Pancho?
Uh, Harm, causing harm. That's
Causing
it.
harm.
On the charge sheet, there is grievous harm, bodily harm, maim, and wounding, something like that. I think there are about 5 or 6 different charge on that medical form,
Right.
and the one in the middle is what was checked out by the doctor. Just harm. It's regular harm. No adjective is added to it. Given the fact that this man lost blood, had a huge laceration caused by his teeth. The lip, upper lip, been pushed against. I don't know whether it is the door or the fist or whatever it was,
Right.
against him. So he was bleeding, but it was just harm, regular harm.
Well, knowing what we know right now, Ruggles, um, unlawful imprisonment could possibly be not charged. He stopped him. He blocked him. He subdued his movement. Could Should there be a multitude of charges? Because this charge would only amount, if found guilty, would be possible 1 year in prison, or $3,000 fine, or both. Should there be more charges for what happened?
Well, just based on all that's have been said, I go back to criminal versus civil. I think the principal criminal charge arising would be in the region of harm. That harm would be usually determined by what the medical report says. As Dr. Panchoo indicated, on the medical form, not the charge sheet, on the medical form, you have itemized there for the doctor to tick off the seriousness of the harm in the assessment of the doctor. Now, that forms evidence in court. Now, one of the things that we have to realize is that people might be saying things, but these same people may not be coming to give evidence in court. What matters in court is a proper case presented and that you have the evidence to support the case. That is what matters inside the courthouse.
Yes.
But there can be civil issues arising from the versions, and those civil issues, apart from the civil issue here, will be assault and battery. That's how you normally call designate the civil issue, assault and battery. And there could also be, again, based on versions, and remember, I'm not making any determination. Indeed, it will be responsible of me to do so in the absence of hearing all sides.
Right.
But from what is said, for example, the issue of false imprisonment can be the subject of a civil claim.
What about
Remember, the objective of a civil action
Mhm.
is compensation. The
Right.
objective of a criminal action is punishment. And the principal charge, the coming out of that, would be some degree of harm, whether it's harm itself, causing grievous harm, maiming, as I said, dangerous harm, the whole ambit.
Right.
Mhm.
So guys, let me another programming note I gotta tell you guys. On Wednesday, I want you guys to mark this in your calendar. On Wednesday, we'll have Mr. Evans, his wife, and his attorney live on the ride on Wednesday. We're gonna start a little bit early because there's a lot to extract from his story, a lot to discuss on Wednesday. So make sure you guys bookmark Wednesday, is your date with us on the ride with Mr. Evans, his wife, and their attorney. We're going to get it straight from the horse's mouth, as they say. Going forward, Panchoo, where you plan to go? Are you planning organizing another march? Are you satisfied with what happened so far? What is your projection and where things go from here?
Well, Junior, we we are giving the police an opportunity now that they have a lot of more facts to do an investigation. We're allowing them an opportunity for due process. They're asking for that. We're saying yes. But we're looking we're not going to be satisfied, Junior, unless all of the persons who inflicted hurt to Mr. Smith are arrested and charged. We're not going to stop until that happens. So charged already. One of the things too, Junior, and maybe Mr. Ruggles, Fergusson can help me on this. Even though there is a charge now, or that was done on Saturday, but when the DPP looks at all of the evidence, he has the right to increase the charges based upon all of the evidence and medical reports that he would see before him, I'm sure. But so that's what we're doing now, Junior. We're allowing the police due course of action, and we're waiting to see who else are going to be charged. Who else is going to be charged
Are you also looking,
for inflicting?
to the there's minor children involved as well, I've heard. Would that be a normal thing to charge the minor children, Ruggles?
Well, it depends on the ages. How minor are the children? There's an age of,
They are teenagers.
criminal. Yes.
Yes, they are. They are of the age for criminal liability.
If they are of the age of,
Yeah.
of criminal responsibility, and there is evidence, because again it comes back to the evidence in the matter. And to answer Dr. Panchoo's question, charges can always be elevated. What is important is whether there is the evidential basis that you can produce in a court to support the charge. So charges can always be elevated. Sometimes it moves from dangerous harm to murder because the person dies. So that's that's not an issue. But I'm happy, and again, as an officer of the court, I don't need to carry a popular view, and I never seek to carry. In fact, it would be irresponsible of me if I just sway with popular views. I cannot, and I try to be as objective as possible. But Dr. Panchoo made the point. They say they want due process, but they're entitled. Everybody is entitled to due process. It's important that when you are charged, sitting on the other side of the fence, that you are afforded due process. That's your constitutional right. However, whatever view that people might take of what you do, due process is important for everybody. And I think it's important. And I want to make the point too that the police themselves, and I fight with the police every day. So that's not an issue, and I'm known to fight with the police every day. But the police too, that doesn't mean that all police officers are bad police officers. Police officers operate under serious constraints, lack of resources. As I say, you need more training. What one, have to be careful about doing is you're writing off the police because of how this issue was handled. And I make the point again, because I think that's where the court or criminal aspect of it and the broader social justice aspect of it comes in, because you can deal with the two issues side by side. it could have been just words. It could have been just words. But if it's something like the guy who called in earlier, gave an example of being a security guard and what happened. The reality is these things happen and people don't speak out about it. And it's only when it's spoken out, people are enraged, but it happens every day. It's just that a lot of people don't speak out about it when it happens. In this case, Mr. Smith's wife spoke out. She gave a version, but the fact is, she rose in defense of her husband. I wasn't too sure, but Dr. Panchoo has clarified as to whether she was on the scene or not. But the reality, she's to be admired because she sees an injustice to her husband and she comes forward and tells a story. The people who protest, as I always say, everybody has a role to play in all of this, because the message is really and truly, do not treat persons, whether it's black people, on the basis of the color of the skin or privilege or wealth or so. Don't come and take advantage of people. And the positive side of a protest would show that, listen, Grenadians are not ones who would sit back and allow something to happen and not speak out about it in those circumstances. So, there are positives, right or wrong. There are things that can be done. As I say, most of the time people would just talk about it and do nothing about it. So, you talk for a day, then a new issue arises tomorrow, it goes away. But it's important to understand the procedure in this particular case. The procedure in terms of any investigation is about you get a report, you detain, you may arrest, you have sufficient evidence, you arrest, you charge, and then it goes to court, and due process takes place in the courthouse. It's based on evidence that comes out in the courthouse. But the important thing, and it's good that there is a discussion, a public discussion on these issues, because sometimes we all run away from it. There are things that happen out there. People take advantage of other people. And it's good when people step in and say, well, listen, I give solidarity to you. The issue of animals, I always, take the opportunity, because in this case, is a poodle, is not a dangerous animal per se. But whatever it is, there is a law, Dogs Registration and Control Act, that says control your animals, keep it indoors. So if the animals, the dog was on a leash, under control, the incident would never first of all, it would not have been bongzong in the road.
Yeah, that's true.
And then there would have been no incident.
And we'll not be talking about it. But you said
I have been talking about another issue.
Yeah.
But so I'm saying it's important that we understand and learn, all the lessons that are to be learned out of this issue.
Yes.
And be guided in the future. So, for example, people who come to Grenada and because of either what the wealth that they own, and they might feel they can take advantage of the small man, it's a warning shot. In this country, one would not tolerate that. And so all of these things are important.
But I applaud Sabrina, you, Panchoo, and everyone who spoke out on the topic. But I'm still surprised that we didn't get more people in Grenada there that has voices, that has a big platform, have big platforms. They didn't speak out as boldly. Are you surprised, Panchoo, that more people didn't lend their voice to Mr. Evans' plea?
Well, Junior, let me say this here. With only about three hours to organize this. I mean, we even had a couple T-shirts printed in this short time. I think we reached a core of persons who was sensitized and ready on the spur of the moment to respond to something like this. Um, am I surprised that there were not some other persons involved? Yes and no. I don't think I'm surprised. I think people are very cautious. Um, you see, Junior, in Grenada, because of our smallness and etc., we draw the lines. We like to draw the lines along political affiliation of everything, and so sometimes we get caught up in in the tirade, and people are bothered by it. I am bothered by it
Mhm.
because I have received several nasty comments, political comments.
Right.
There is no political there is no political affiliation to taking on the social justice issue.
True.
And that is what I want people to know. Neither, Junior, and I need to make that before we close, neither am I anti-police, just like Mr. Ruggles Fergusson. The fact is, I am convinced that there was some serious errors made by the police in handling this case, and I am willing to point them out. This is not Panchoo against Commissioner Martin. No, that because I have a lot of respect for his ability and the judicious way in which he deals with things. But I had a problem, Junior. Here is one of the problems I had. I don't this issue that happened. An accident happened. The perpetrator stopped a vehicle, confiscated the key, detained the Evan, and beat him up. And the police came on the scene and they did not respond in an appropriate way, in my estimation. I find it difficult, Junior, and that is one of my problems. I find it really difficult for the commissioner to have to come to settle this little matter. For me, there
Right.
are bigger issues for a commissioner to be engaged in. A trained police officer responding to something as obvious as this with evidence needs to be able to make a decision in the side of the law. And it took the commissioner to come in and step in to have this thing brought to some semblance of justice. So my stance, Junior, is that this is a social justice call. I made the call, and I am convinced I'm right about this call, because had it not been for the protests, Monday today we would have still not have had anyone charged for this crime.
Right. And
Could I just ask one question?
yep.
Because Dr. Panchoo has been interfacing with several players in this matter. Well, in a sense, he partly answered the question. But you think, Dr. Panchoo, that had there not been a protest, that the folks would not have been charged? You believe that? Or do you believe that they would not have been charged at all, or the charges may have come probably much more slowly, maybe in a week's time, as the case may be?
Yeah, I think it might have come, but it took the protest to activate it, brought the police into a frenzy, and I have a problem with that. I have a fundamental problem with that because this is a legal matter, and the police was right there.
They could have dealt with it.
I mean, let me tell you this, Junior. Here's what I believe too. You saw that Mr. Evan, the police saw that because in talking to Mr. Evan, they recognized that they couldn't understand anything he was saying, because Mr. Evan of speech fluency. Okay, so one or two words you will hear coming from him, and you will have to try to decipher the words. So it took the witness, his worker, to be able to answer some questions on behalf of him, but they gave him the form. Okay, here is my belief. I am so certain about that the police was hoping that he never returned the form.
Wow.
And that will make them have an excuse not to do any arrest.
Yeah, and when you contrast this type of stories, and speaking of privilege, to Oscar Bartholomew, who the guy came and he hugged a police officer, and the way how he was treated, he was killed. He was killed. So I'm thinking if the roles were reversed, and in this case, you can say the roles were reversed, the police did absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And that is discouraging. And it's somehow embarrassing that and that's me talking, that policing in general see that someone of a higher class, of a higher power, someone who might be more powerful, or whatever position that person have in society, wherever he come from, they deem his privilege more so than the other gentleman that was bloodied. And that is not a good sign. You know what I mean? As I said, justice should be equal straight across the board. There shouldn't be a justice system or a perceived justice system, because it's a perceived. Shouldn't be a perceived justice system for one class or one set or some set, and then the others receive the butt end of the justice system. It should be even straight across the board. And that's my perception on it. But guys, thank you so much. That was an extended conversation. Mr. Ruggles, Fergusson, I appreciate your time always. Dr. Panchoo, we appreciate you. Thank you for coming in. And for the viewers who stuck in for the whole almost 2 hours to take in on this, for everyone that called and everyone that participated. Closing remarks, guys. We'll take the closing argument from the lawyer himself, Ruggles Fergusson. Closing remarks.
Yes. Well, Junior, I would really like to hear the version of the police. And you know, part of the reality, and all that I would say is welcome to the club, because what Dr. Panchoo is referring to there, sometimes these matters always take longer than folks would desire them to happen. It's interesting, and that's why I asked the question based on everything, whether or not he thought that the police would have laid a charge. But you know, those are details, and they are broader issues, you know, that surround these points that we should capitalize on. Make sure there is, you know, good public education in terms of rights, obligations, responsibilities. This issue itself brings out, you know, what can be done as the obligations when it comes to dogs. The fact is that we have laws in place, the Dogs Registration and Control Act, and we can also, you know, pursue criminal matters, and you can pursue privately civil matters. You know, so it's important to understand those basic procedures, but it's also good to know that, you know, when people feel a sense of injustice, there is a sense of solidarity, and that people, you know, would take the spontaneous lead, as obviously Dr. Panchoo has done here. I didn't know he had that radical side to him. I must say, Dr. Panchoo, I just
Who knew?
that, you know, there. But you know, it's good when people feel a sense of injustice. You know, that they you know, rise up and speak out against it. And you'll be surprised. I mean, from where I sit, I would, you know, hear similar stories. When I say similar, where people have issues and they feel a sense of injustice. In fact, only recently, we had one here, Junior, and I know that young lady who had appeared there, felt a sense of injustice, and she spoke out.
Yes.
And that's what is important. And the other thing is that, when you speak out, that's one aspect of it, but you take action too. And it's very important that we understand the roles and responsibilities of everybody, including the police.
Yes.
And good Junior, again, on point, and taking up the issues and opening up the audience for all the different views.
Yes.
Some may disagree strongly with what we say, others may agree. Some may be sitting on the fence. But whatever position you take, it is all good that you speak and you express yourself, and it's good for public education generally.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ruggles. Wrap it up, Doctor.
Yeah, thank you, Junior. Thank you, absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard on this issue. And of course, I have been on your program several times before, and I know I'll continue to be on your program when the time, when it's needed. Junior, I am passionate about quite a number of things. And there is incidentally, there is a militant side to me. And so a lot of times I have to quell that inner voice of militancy. I am passionate about a few things, and in Grenada especially, social justice comes to the forefront. I am going to take on the cause of many. I can't take on every fight. There are things sometimes we're passionate about, but we choose not to take on the fight. But this one really, really, and notice, Junior, it parallels already worldwide in the United States and elsewhere. I mean, all of this tension is there, so it was easy to sort of tag along with certain aspects of this case. I have no bones, and I'm going to say that, Junior. Look you straight in the camera. I have no bones with the police force. I believe in police work. We need the police. I'm an ally of the police. I will work with the police. But whenever they mess up, they need to be called to be responsible and take responsibility. And in my estimation, the case that happened on last Thursday in Fort Judy was one of the areas where the police needed to come through on the side of justice, not on the side of anybody, but on the side of right and justice. And they failed to come through for us on the side of justice. That's why I took up the cause. Thank you, Junior. Thank you, listeners.
Thank you.
Blessings.
Dr. Panchoo. Thank you, Ruggles, Fergusson, and everyone else who joined in on this forum discussion here today. Guys, as I was saying that, when you guys been following the program for a while, and never once have I ever spoken against vigilante justice on either side. I don't believe that anyone should take matters into their own hands. And I think that what this man did, what this family did was wrong. That's my personal opinion. What the family did was wrong, right? And they should have been arrested on the spot. If it was anybody else, I believe that police would come up to the scene. They would have arrested the perpetrators of this act. It was clear enough that something happened. The guy had laceration. There was a fight. There was blood. And I think action needed to be taken on the spot. I think that I'm living in the United States and I've seen the privilege of others and I don't like it. And I would hate to believe that it reigns supreme in the tiny island of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. I would hate to believe that that's what's happening there. So whatever gave that man the right to think that he could beat somebody up with his entire family and get away with it, I don't know who made him think that that type of privilege would allow him to get away with something like that. And I don't know if he think that he would have gotten away with it. But I want to tell everybody or anybody who is thinking about taking matters into their own hand, whether you're white, green, purple, black, whatever, it ain't gonna work. It's not gonna work. All right? And we urge everyone, speak out and share your stories. That's why we're here. That's why Ridealong is here. Other platforms sort of like us are here to hear your story. Don't be shy, because if you don't speak, you get nothing done. And sometimes, as Dr. Panchoo say, probably if they didn't put out the protests, what happened so quickly with the charges, that probably would have never happened in the time frame that it happened. So you need to share your story. You need to get the story out, and don't be shy. And you listen. You can help a lot of people by sharing your stories. All right? Thank you, guys. We appreciate you so much. Guys, I got to tell you about again our event, and thank everyone for participating on our last bingo that was held yesterday. Now we have a next one coming up. Our next bingo. Getting ready for this one. This one is going to be a really nice one. We're giving away an iWatch Series 5, an iPad, and $500 in cash. 3 games. $500 cash, an iWatch Series 5. That's a good one. That's the one that has the individual phone on it. You could talk on your watch like it's a phone. And Apple iPad, brand new Apple iPad. Tickets are $10. If you need more information, get a ticket. You could go to rabingo2.eventbrite.com. That's rabingo2.eventbrite.com. Go ahead and get your tickets right now. We have a special guest appearance. And in fact, this game is going to be hosted by my good friend, Mr. Anselm Douglas. He'll be performing live as well. You know the guy that's saying, "Who let the dogs out?" Yeah, he's going to be doing a lot of songs, real hits. So you guys are going to be there. All this entertainment. We have top DJs, a lot of fun inside of the bingo. It's not just a bingo, a bingo and dance, and it's all virtual. And we had a real fun. Trust me, you guys don't want to miss it. Only $10 for all this fun opportunity to win over $1,500 in prizes, cash and prizes. You got to be there. It's July 25th. That's July 25th. To get your ticket right now, you go to rabingo2.eventbrite.com. But it's not endless, It's not endless. We only have 200 tickets. So you got to go get your tickets. Now, when it's sold out, it's sold out. It's done. It's done. All right? Get your tickets right now. Go and get it right now because the ticket will sell out. Anselm Douglas inside of the bingo, plus top DJs as well. Guys, don't forget to join us on Wednesday. On Wednesday, we're going to have an exclusive ride-along interview with Mr. Evans, Miss Evans, and their attorney, Mr. Derek Sylvester. He's going to be joining us right here on the ride, and we're going to go real deep into the case as much as we could speak about on the case involving the dog and the family and everything that you need to know. And we open up the platform, If the family wants to come in and share their story, the Kavanagh family, if they want to come in and share their story, we're more than happy to have them share their story as well. We've sent out an invitation. Listen, I open the policy here, Come in and share all your story, man. We want to hear it. So again, Wednesday we have the Smith family exclusive interview with their lawyer right here on Ridealong, starting exactly at 6 p.m. Peace out, guys. Catch you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Oh, don't forget also on Thursday, guys. On Thursday, my new co-host, right? She's going to be joining us. If you guys missed it last week, don't make it a habit. Thursday will be turn up. Thursday is turn up. All right? Thursday will be real vibes. Bye-bye, guys. Catch you guys tomorrow. Peace out. Bye-bye.
Did you know that the census is due this year on April 1st? And guess what? This time we can finally count as Caribbean. This year, all you have to do is 1. Check the race box, and 2. Write in your country of birth or ancestry. You can answer by the paper form, online, or by phone. Everybody counts in Census 2020. So count as Caribbean. Yes, we count.